And welcome back, everybody. James at Canuck here, doing another boiler retrofit for you guys today. This one's going to be a little bit unique again compared to some of the other ones we've done. What we are going to be doing is we're going to be removing this William McLean. She's an older high-efficiency model, I think from the mid to late 90s here. You can see the combustion air being brought in with the stainless steel exhaust, and then it's terminated outside. Not the best of installs, you can tell. A lot of pipes are crooked, stuff is randomly placed. But there was a little bit of love and care and thought process when they actually thought about servicing for this unit here. Odd setup, but they do actually have a reduced pressure backflow assembly for the boiler feed and whatnot. But yeah, ultimately we're gonna take this out and beautify this a little bit more. It is, well, actually the heating system here does have 6 zones, and they're actually up in the ceiling, and we're gonna repipe them. The only difference is that we have 6 supplies, but we have a common return, and that common return is coming back here. So we won't be able to isolate it like we normally have 6 supplies and 6 returns. We're gonna just have 1 common return, which is fine. It still will work. I'm debating whether to use zone valves or pumps in this situation and application. I think once we take everything apart, we'll see what it looks like and then go from there. We do have a very primitive primary secondary setup. This pump's actually on the secondary side. And on this particular boiler here, you actually have an internal pump there for the primary, which we have replaced at one point before. But you can take a look at this setup. It has gone over a few changes here and there. I think the control board's been changed, but it's time to retire this relic from the 90s and put something a little bit newer in its place. We're going to have our Combi-Boiler, and we're going to be putting an NFC-250 in this time. We're going to be removing the indirect hot water tank, and this super hot Allied Engineering one. Which is still good. The homeowner might want to resell it, and we'll put our Combi-Boiler, which will give us domestic hot water. The softener is going to be gone. We're going to clean up all this piping with the shark bites and the PEX, and even replace the water main here, upgrade the irrigation system with a double check valve assembly, all that good stuff. And from there on in, we also have one other zone, 7th zone, and this goes to the garage where we're going to upgrade the unit heater, and I'll show you that in a second. But all in all, guys, it's going to turn out pretty good, I think. And it's going to be a world of difference and not even recognizable once we're done with it. And here we are in the garage, guys. And this is what heats this 3-bay garage over here. And then the single bay right here is a clever use of a kick space heater that you would see sometimes under bathroom or kitchen cabinets. And basically it just has a simple rudimentary pump with a coil and a fan just blowing out heat, but definitely not adequate. So we're going to upgrade this with a proper unit heater in this space, clean up the piping. And one thing is this pump is actually flowing in the opposite direction from the rest of the system. So every time zone valves open and close, they make a bang noise because they're fighting against the direction of flow. So we're going to correct that as well too. But this will be all part of the major retrofit, and I'm sure the customer will definitely be happy with the install.
Didn't know what time it was, the lights were low. Oh, oh, I leaned back on my radio. Oh, oh, some cat was laying down some rock and roll, not a soul he said. Then the loud sound that seemed to fade came back like a slow voice on a wave of fade. That weren't no DJ, that was hazy. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds. There's a starman your window, I can see his light. If we can sparkle, he may land tonight. Don't tell your papa, or he'll get us locked up and tight. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He's told us not to blow it, 'cause he knows it's all worthwhile. He told me, let the children lose it, let the children use it, let all the children boogie. Starman waiting in the sky.
Hello everybody and welcome back. We've finally completed this NFC-200 Combi-Boiler install. This is of course the newer model compared to some that have been recently installed by us. We've been doing a lot of 175s. This one in particular is the 200, so it's a larger model. And this is what it looks like. This is the finished product right here. As you can see, we have completed everything now, and I believe actually the homeowner is going to be coming home today. In fact, they've been away for a little bit. So it should be a good little surprise for them, but we'll go over some of the details here right now, and we'll zoom in on one of the zones right now currently that is calling for heat. And this is the master bedroom zone. And I've installed the new Tyco 0015E series circulator pumps. And I gotta admit, I'm actually impressed. I've always been a big Grundfos fan, but these particular pumps are nice, easy, compact to install. You can adjust the settings, and I do like the light indicator. And not only that, it does show status. It'll blink depending on what's going on and give you a few error codes. So in some ways, that newer technology is a bit handier, and there are a little bit smarter circulator pumps, which are ideal for zoning. And the controller of that is this 6-zone expandable switching relay, the Taco one. I know for a while they had issues with the color dye, so they had black covers, which I didn't mind, but the green and green matched, so I figured we're using a Taco switching relay, so we'll put the pumps in there. But yeah, let's just go for a general overview, and we can start with the domestic water. When I talked to the homeowner, I said, all right, well, let's clean everything up. So we removed the water softener, replaced and put in a new water main with a new PRV. I do like these ones with the unions. And their adjustable setting right here, so you can actually dial in the pressure, and added a pressure gauge just for reference. Now above that, we have put in our reduced pressure backflow assembly for good backflow prevention. Every municipality is different, so obviously you got to check your own codes, but I know some places want RPs in situations where you don't need them. And I really am a big fan of the Zurn Wilkins ones because they're real easy to service. You ever need to pull this out, you just shut this off, take these screws out, pull the whole head out, go clean it, replace it, fix it, and put a new one in, and you're back up and running in literally seconds, not even minutes, depending how good you are at it. And of course, we have our service tags of when we did the inspection, which was obviously just recently commissioned. We put in a new Honeywell 911 boiler reducing valve. So obviously I like these two. Just like these, you can dial in the pressure, 15, 20 PSI, and we put a gauge there. And we're currently operating this system at around 16 pounds. And then of course it goes into the secondary loop, which we'll get into a second. Carrying on, we put in a double check valve assembly. It is 2 code, especially if you have an irrigation system. So I put this in here, obviously tested this as well, and redid the piping so it's clean, neat, and also a shut off and a drain for wintertime, depending on what the irrigation guys end up doing. Further, or higher up, we put in, I always like to put in a signature lighting piece. This was a lot of fun and nice. Just took our maple leaves, put in some sheet metal, cut the outlines here, folded it back, and actually screwed it in place, and then folded these panels back. And it's done by little LED lighting here, pucks that you put in there, and you can feed it up there. And then of course I have the adapter up there. Just a nice little feature, just to know that it is a Canuck install. And I think it actually looks quite sharp and makes the system look a little bit better than what it was. And once again, it's a bit more unique as well. So let's go over the main system now. As normal, we have the boiler and we have the relief valves. Normally I've put them in behind here, but unless you're using the actual isolation valve kits that come with them, which are actually approved, some gas authorities, ours in particular, wants these T&P and safety relief valves put in the vertical position. So I've actually tweaked that, done that, and actually I think it's a cleaner look to begin with, because I do believe in the vertical position is always better for these, because you don't get any grit or material underneath these. And then I put dielectric unions on to make them easy to change if you need to, and then we got them discharging on the floor. And of course we have our hot outlet and our cold inlet, and then these two lines for the domestic, the cold and hot in. I'm not a huge fan of the service valves that they come with, just because I like things plumb, neat, clean, and all my valves in a row, all the drains in a row, but very simple to service and change and clean. If you ever have to take the boiler off, you got dielectric unions there to take it off as well. Everything has been thought of for servicing, not new construction, and that's why I'm always particular about doing these. Same with this, the Navien, the magnetic filter, right out in front, easy to get at, easy access. Clean it, can pull it out, see how dirty the system is as part of your annual servicing. Behind it, we have the acid neutralizer. No need for a condensate pump, even though I was debating that, but when you can do gravity fed, it's always best. And of course it goes over here into this drain where the HRV comes up and picks up in there. I always like to leave a bit of redundancies and a few opening vents just in case overflow or any issues like that. And to make sure it's serviceable, take this union off, pull this out, and you can clean out the trap without having to change a lot of things. I'm always on my guys. I know sometimes they just glue it in, but make it easy for the next technician, specifically probably from our company, to come in there and do that and not have to augment it. And same with this here, you can take this off and this off the union and replace that acid neutralizer media. But just, it's designed for service. Yes, it's designed for aesthetics, functionality, but also, I mean, you can't put everything out in right, but at least you have access and you got room back here to get at certain areas. Everything's secured. We put microfix hangers, and where we didn't put microfix hangers, we put in pipe stays, nice, good, and secure. I did do a little bit labeling here. We do have our primary loop. Hot goes out into the low loss header, and then back to the return through the magnetic filter before it goes into the boiler to help protect the boiler. And then of course on the other side of the hydraulic separator or low loss header, we have our secondary loop. It goes out up here into our zones, all 7 zones. Now there's 6 for the house, and the 7th that we'll be adding on here, it's currently closed off, that is for the garage loop once we have the unit heater in place. And we have a common return. This is different than a lot of systems. It's done specifically sometimes to be cheaper, more economical, just to have a common return, but not a problem. We're still able to, once again, shut these off, flush the system. That's why I put a hose bib down here with water to clean the system out. And then of course, on the return side, put it to the floor drain, clean the system. That's actually how I got the air out of the system without going around to bleed anywhere. A little bit extra time, a little bit of extra, forethought and thinking ahead does help big time to make it such an easy transition to getting the system up and running. So yes, that's where it's nice just to have isolation valves, isolate the system, get the air out, and then you're up and running. Put 2 thermometers here, see our delta T again. We're at about 165, returning at 160, which is about, 175 and about just over 160, which is about normal considering we only have 1 zone on right now, and that is the living room zone, zone 3. So one nice thing about the pumps here too, I like using these Califacto circulators. They are really nice because you can put your gauges on or whatever you need. And also if you want to purge the system, you also have these up here if you want to put a hose up to. These things right here, they do come out at different angles. I put on some Street 1/8 black malleable 45s, and of course you can see then instantly looking at your pump, looking at your delta P and your delta, or your pressure differential. We're at 16 pounds. Oh, we're just over 20. Oh, great. We know that pump is pumping, right? And if it wasn't, also it would be indicated by that. It's just a nice, easy troubleshooting guide. If you come and you have no heat, well, there's no difference here. Maybe the pump's hooped, the pump's on. So yeah, we got to take this out, replace it. And once again, easy to do that. Isolate, isolate, done. You're up to the races, and moving on to your next service call. Once again, labeled everything up here. Use the label maker in the vertical position and put it on some 26 gauge sheet metal. Just cut them out, silicone them there. The nice thing about doing that way versus putting stuff on the pumps, if you ever change this pump, well, then you lose what zone it was, right? At least here you can tell which zone it goes to. And did a nice clean transition, brought all our lines all the way over here, used our pipe stays, brought copper pipe all the way back into the original connections that had the original zone valves here, and we wanted to get rid of it, and of course put everything on one wall. So happy with the way that turned out. Different configuration with the low loss header here. You can see, rather than putting the auto vent up here, we actually connected it to the expansion tank via this support arm, the service kit, and I actually put 2 service valves here. The nice thing about this too, these service valves, and I think I've mentioned it in previous videos, they're in the lock open position. People come and try to shut these off, but that's why you got to look and see if this is locked. That means you got to take the handle off. It's important because you could have somebody do this, and if you do that, well, you're separating all your expansion in the system, and then your relief valves are going to go off. And that's obviously not a good thing, and it's a safety issue, right? So that's why they do it, and that's why I love having these here. Nice, easy to service, drain the system down. Go down here, you have access to the air chuck or the Schrader valve down here. Fill up with air, you're up and running again, just like that. And this auto vent that came with, and usually you put on top of it, I just brought it up here and put it there to give it that nice, clean, straight, uniform look as part of your expansion and hydraulic separation chamber. And one thing too, with the boiler feed coming in through here, coming in through the return side on the secondary loop, it's very handy because then if I want to flush the system and get air out, all I have to do is isolate this valve, put a hose here. I can not even use city water hooked up with a hose, but I can just literally run the boiler feed water into the system. It's going to go this way, then it will come up here, it won't go towards the boiler, come up through here, go through, let's say, this zone, which is what I want to purge, and I've isolated every one, goes up through here, comes back through the common return, and since it can't go anywhere else, because the water has to take its path, it will get the air out of the system. Yes, it takes a bit more time to do it this way, but once again, makes your life so much easier. You're not going around moving furniture, opening up all the bleeders. You're getting the system up and running, especially if it's cold out. Winter is finally on the tail end up here in Prince George. But once again, the small details make a big difference. Natural gas line, I always like to do hard piping. I know a lot of people use gas tight, track pipe, whatever. I've always believed, especially in our area, you want to protect stuff from mechanical damage wherever it is, and it just looks better. It's strong, it's stable. Put a few microfix hangers here. This thing is not going anywhere, especially with natural gas. Natural gas can be very forgiving, but you got to give it the respect it's due. And then, of course, we have extra valves just for hot and cold for the system, just for a little bit more redundancy. And then, of course, our gas connection, which was originally there. A lot of people ask how I do these systems. What's your logic? Obviously, you must plan them out ahead. No, actually, I don't. I have a general premise on when I go into a system and what I'm going to do. But I'm not sure if this boiler is going to go here or there. I'm not sure if I'm going to do my main piping this way or that way. I'm not even sure if I'm going to use a hydraulic separator or not. Luckily, I do have some resources that we can keep certain things at our shop for stock so that we're easily changeable or compatible to different changes in what I want to do with our design for each system. But by doing that and having that flexibility makes life a lot easier. And consequently, whether I decide to move it here or there will actually help making the gas run shorter, but maybe the venting might be a little bit longer. And the venting, once again, we've used Gray 636 for that 90 degrees Celsius. And then we just use standard schedule 40 PVC for the air intake. It goes out and out through where the original holes were for the old boiler. All in all, everything looks nice and clean because of building this false wall. Yes, it takes a bit of extra time, but obviously there's just drywall here and a few studs. You want to have a good securing area for your mounting brackets, right? So you can just pick wherever you want, however you want to make it. Obviously I used 1.25 inch pipe for this manifold system because we had so many zones. We actually have 7 zones here, so I just increased that a bit. But moreover, if you look here, I just use Lumex because it's not going to be susceptible damage. It'll be easy to change, easy to take off. Painted the Lumex a nice black just to help blend in the system, and then you run it down in between the false wall. You can take this off. This is where I bring all the wires in and then bring them up through here. And then of course I've even made it even more cleaner because I have access behind here. I can just feed the wires down here and get that nice clean look for all the controls. Boiler, and if for some reason in July she doesn't want any heat, which I can't see why you would need heat, but you don't even want to run the heating system, all you have to do is kill this. That kills power. This shuts power off to this, and all the heating pumps are then shut off. And then we turn on, and then if you want heat come fall, you just turn that on. The lights here as well, this actually controls the lighting source if she doesn't want that on. But like I say, it's a nice little flavor in addition to the Canuck logo. Now, you may notice we have 7 pumps and we have a 6-zone switching relay. What gives? Well, what I've done in this situation is I've used the internal benefits of the Navien NFC for using a switching relay to control the interior house zones, and then we have the exterior garage zone. And I've actually run this wire all the way over here up into the boiler, and actually I think it's this one right here, into the other zone. And you know what, while we're here, we'll take this off and just show you what I'm talking about, because this does come with the availability of doing 3 zones. And what I have done here for one of the thermostats is I've hooked up this switching relay right here to zone 1, and then zone 2 right here. This is the thermostat for zone 2, which is not up and running. And then we have the pump for that 7th zone going over here to zone 2 terminals. And basically, if we had an 8th zone, we could even use that right there as well. But the nice thing about it, it's simple and easy. And if you have an odd number zones, if you only got a switching relay that does 4, but you need 5, use the other terminals on here if you want. It does make life really easy having those extra 4 options. Maybe even for a primary, secondary, tertiary system, if you have a mixing valve and a 3rd zone and you want to have everything running at the same time. And just a brief overlook on the internals. You got the fire tube heat exchanger right there. Always want to make sure that this auto vent's open when you're filling the system. You do not want the system to dry fire. That can happen, and it's a scary situation, and you can have it get really hot, insulation can melt. Yeah, we do not want that to happen at all. And once again, this is the reason why I like Naviens. I have seen time and time again people say, great install, but horrible boiler. Well, I'm going to tell you some facts here, and this is not a sales pitch. These are just facts from my personal experience. Navien is second to none when it comes to customer service. They have been very reliable for getting hold of them for diagnosing it. Now, of course, once you have a system like this all done up properly, correctly, well, servicing is a lot easier and troubleshooting is a lot easier. But when you have this system in particular, with this customer service, it does make things easier. But another reason why I like Navien is Everything has been thought out a little bit more than some other boiler systems. Viessmann, IBC, a lot of them have their benefits. I like Navien for the user interface control, very easy to work on. You're not going through in some jumble language or trying to figure out, well, what does that mean or what does that term mean? It's very easy for a technician with perhaps limited experience to understand what all these icons are and what's going on. And so on and so forth, but also the accessibility and the serviceability. We have our heat exchanger back there. We can take this off. Yes, it's very busy, but it's also very easy to get at. I do like, because I've worked on these systems, replaced sensors and switches and valves and pumps in here, and it all depends on serviceability. And that's where I'm a big fan of Navien. People complain about the heat exchanger, especially on the water tube boilers. I've never had an issue with them. Could they leak here and there? But that's all part of their design envelope, and that's why it's a sealed system with you got your combustion air coming in and your exhaust going out. This is why I still put these in, and I put them in my own house, and you can see how particular I am because I believe that this product is one of the top products out there on the market. People in other demographics may not feel the same way. I get it. Sometimes you may not have parts access or availability, but for all the suppliers out there, and I'm not knocking anyone's, I have better reliability when it comes to Navien and getting parts quicker than some other brands. And in your certain areas, you might have better with Viessmann, with Noritz, with Rinnai. The list goes on and on, right? But at the end of the day, it's just my boiler of choice. And I'll continue on using it because it makes my life a lot easier and the installs a lot easier. Anyways, guys, this is James from Canuck Mechanical signing off here. I think I've gone over most, if not everything. One last thing I want to show you here, and you may have noticed it. This is for the homeowner. Her husband recently passed away, I believe in January of this year. And her husband worked a lot on this boiler system, a lot. Tinkering, I think he was a little bit mechanically minded. And I think he would hopefully be very happy with the system now that will hopefully provide for his wife in his passing. And I gave him a little tribute, went down to our local gift shop and made a little plaque for him. So a nice little touch. Didn't have to do it, but I wanted to do it because I believe doing this, it's not only doing the system right, putting a bit of passion into it, but also caring about and enjoying what you do as well, right? And one final thing, a little bit of history with Canuck here. It's an old service ticket, and actually a lot of this is my father's writing, which is funny. And I think Ian has put some time in there as well and kept a record. So very, very interesting. And a little bit of history right there. Anyways, guys, James from Canuck Mechanical signing off. We'll see you again for the next install. Take care.